And with respect to Romans 7, Paul says, I'm a wicked man. No, there's a law of sin operating in me. So when you think after so many years of ministry, but when why it took time for Paul to realize that it's a sin of law is working in his body, and in chapter 8 he says, using the law of spirit, one can overcome the law of flesh and the law of sin. So when can you think when a believer can completely overcome sin? By I know that Paul has give a detailed explanation in the complete book of chapter 8, so how he used the law of spirit to overcome the law of sin. But can you give an overview of how can believers can completely overcome the law of sin using the law of spirit?
Okay. So there is a particular slide that I did not have time to look at. Adi, it is slide number 28. Can you pull that up, Adi, for me? Yeah, so basically what is happening here is slide number 28. It's called perversity. So what's basically happening here, Danny, while we're getting the slide up is, you have to imagine, I'm giving you an illustration so that it's easier for us to visualize. You have to imagine this man who was drowning with water with a heavy weight, chain to his leg. So I told you that picture of that man drowning in water with his heavy weight tied to his leg is a picture of sin. And now what happens at justification is that the weight is chopped off and cut, and the man is legally delivered. He is legally delivered, and justification is a legal term. Okay? Now, even though he is legally delivered, he still continues to be in that fallen environment or ecosystem, let's say this fallen world. And in a figurative way, he has to continue to swim to stay afloat. And he has to continue to swim to make progress. So when Paul is saying that, the law of sin is at work in me, he is probably referring to the fallen environment and perhaps his own flesh, okay, that has this tendency to weigh him down, but that he has to fight and that he has to be empowered by the Holy Spirit, and he has to make progress and make advancement in his spiritual life and get progressively sanctified. Okay, so that's the idea of the law of sin and the law of death having an influence over us. Even the idea that Brother Russo mentioned about the already but not yet. Okay, the potential of us becoming glorified people has been unleashed or set in motion, but the actualization of it has to happen through a lifetime. And then on the day that we meet the Lord face to face, we will be glorified. And that's when we can truly, in an actualized way, say, I have broken, and overcome, the law and the flesh that is working through the power of the Spirit that has set me free. So if you can remember this picture of this man immersed in water, but now he doesn't have anything that he is bound to. He is free to swim, but he has to swim. Okay? And he is only if he swims will he then be safe. Okay? It doesn't by default, just because the weight is cut down, it doesn't mean that he is safe, that he will make progress and move from point A to point B. He has to continue to bring and beat his body into subjection by the empowering of the Holy Spirit. Certain days he will do well, certain days he will swim fast, certain days he will swim slow, and other body of believers around him have to come and motivate and empower and encourage him. The Spirit of God will pray and intercede on behalf of him. Jesus will pray and intercede on behalf of him. The Holy Spirit will empower and encourage him, and so he will move from glory to glory, from point A to point B, and incrementally grow in sanctification and be inching towards the final glorification. So that's the idea with which we have to look at the law of sin that Paul is talking about, and how the Spirit ultimately liberates us.